Going on, everyone? Episode 76 of VYPE Talk Live. I'm your host, Wac. Joining alongside with me today, just Jackson. Jackson, how are you doing, my man?
Yeah, doing good. Another busy week in Texas high school football. Very excited to head out to a game tomorrow night, watching Klein Oak and Klein Collins. But very busy week and very excited for another week of Texas high school football.
Yeah, it is another good week indeed, and some really good matchups this week. Before we get into some of those matchups, districts kind of started, and for most schools, I think there's only a couple of districts probably out there that don't have kind of district play this week. So that being said, what are a couple of the teams that you're going to be watching this week, as far as maybe needing a district win, maybe seeing how they look in a new district, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think a team I'm definitely going to be looking at this week is El Campo. They're 2-2 to start the season right now. Now, Ruben Owens was hurt in week 3. He came back last week and was phenomenal in their game. I expect El Campo to go on the rise here, but they've got a big-time matchup with Navasota, who's 3-1 right now. Will be a real test for El Campo to see where they stand and see if they can get back to where they were last year. So that's my kind of team I'll be looking out for this week.
I think there's a couple for me. I'm going to be looking at Dripping Springs for sure in the Austin area. They started district last week and had a convincing win, but now they're playing kind of, for me, one of the three to really kind of pay attention to. You have Westlake and Lake Travis, and we'll get to that game here in a minute. You have Bowie, and that's who they're playing this week. They're going to be playing Bowie. And I think this is going to be a good game for them to see how they stand up to everything. Are they going to be able to be competitive in this district? That game's going to go a long way for me to show if that's going to happen or not. Another one that I can think of at the top of my head. Let's see if I you know what, I think another game in that district, or not. Well, that district is Westlake and Lake Travis. So excuse me, but in that region is New Braunfels Canyon and Bernie Champion. That's going to be a big time game for both of those squads, just to see, are they going to be able to, what's going to happen. That district is pretty heavy front loaded. I think there's some clear favorites in that district. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Smithson Valley and Ruffles Canyon, not Bernie Champion. Bernie Champion, hey, same district. So I think those 4 teams right there, I think those are the 4 teams in that district that are going to be seeded 1 through 4. So, it's good. And I think it's Canyon who's playing like 3 of those teams in consecutive weeks. So definitely a tough schedule for them. But Canyon's look mighty impressive so far at 4-0, beating New Braunfels, a couple of weeks ago, and then having a very impressive victory last week. So, let's talk about some of these matchups across Houston now. What are some of the matchups, Houston and beyond? I know you live in Houston, so what are some of these matchups you're going to be paying close attention to?
Yeah, there's quite a few matchups I'm really interested in. First off, you've got, I'm going to start in Dallas, actually. We've got Parish Episcopal taking on China Springs. Now, China Springs won state last year, had the undefeated season. And then you've got Parish Episcopal, who lost to South Oak Cliff last week off a game-winning field goal, has played LBJ and beat them already, has played Episcopal and beat them, opened up the season against Aledo and beat them, and now they're taking on another UIL state champion in China Springs. So very excited for that matchup. I think that's going to be an interesting one to watch, as Parish came off a heartbreaking loss last week, and then they're going to be playing another tough team this week. Another game in the Dallas area to watch out for: DeSoto, Waxahachie. Waxahachie is 4-0 right now, and that's a big matchup in that area, as you have DeSoto, who's 3-1. DeSoto and Duncanville have pretty much been the top dogs in that district for a while, and I feel like this matchup's going to be very interesting. A lot of people are going to pick DeSoto, but I think that the game's going to be a little closer than people think. So that's another game to watch out for in the Dallas area. But my last matchup in the Dallas area, Rockwall Heath, big rivalry game. Both are 3-1. It's a great way to open district, playing your district rival, but it's definitely going to be an interesting one. Very excited to watch that game. In the Houston area, we've got Stratford taking on Cy-Fair. Stratford's undefeated, taking on Cy-Fair, who's got an electric offense with Trey Owens at quarterback. I expect this to be a high-scoring game as both offenses have been really good this year. Very excited to watch that one. Also, we've got tonight, you've got New Caney 4-0 in District 13 6A, bumping up to 6A from last year. They beat the Woodlands last week, who has predominantly run this district. Now they take on Oak Ridge. I think this is going to be a better matchup than it maybe looks on paper, as I think Oak Ridge team matches up better with New Caney than the Woodlands does. So I think that's going to be a big game. And then, of course, the game I'm going to tomorrow night, Klein Oak versus Klein Collins, Battle of Unbeatens. Both programs have seen some great success in years prior, so I expect that matchup to be a big one as well. And then I've also got a kicker in here. We've got Shiner taking on Ganado. I don't know if I said that right, Josh, but I think that's going to be a good matchup as Shiner won off an amazing two-point conversion by four-star athlete Dalton Brooks, who's committed to Texas A&M. I think that's also going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, that one should be a good one indeed. Hey, it's always good to show love to the small schools. I mean, I'll give you a couple right now. I mean, you have Beeville Jones. That's Shayna's alma mater, by the way, taking on Cuero. Cuero lost last week to Cal Allen. Now you're wondering, can Beeville Jones come in and win this game? And if they do, I think that's going to be a good sign for Beeville right there. So definitely going to be interesting to watch that one. Another one I'm going to be paying attention to simply because it's my alma mater versus the school that my brother currently coaches at, Pleasanton and Poteet. That one is Poteet is punching up, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check here, but I believe Pleasanton is 4A and Poteet is 3A. Let me take a little look here. Yeah, so that one's kind of almost like a crosstown rivalry, if you will. So that's why they're playing. And you look at records wise. Pleasanton is 1-3, Poteet's 3-1. They lost last week coming against a 4A opponent in Pearsall. Which is undefeated. That was, I think, a 1-point loss, if I'm not mistaken. So, Pleasanton may have a 1-3 record, but they can win this game. I mean, they've played Bernie, which is, one of the best 4A teams, I think, in the Central Texas region. So that's going to be a good test for Poteet to see if they're going to be able to compete and, maybe make a little playoff push in 3A once playoffs hit. And then, of course, I think it's now time. Well, one more. I don't know if they're necessarily going to win this game. Leander versus College Station, but Leander's 3-0. They only won 2 games last year. Went 2-8. They started 3-0 this year. Now the combined win of their opponents is only 1, right? So I think it's 1-9 or 1-11, I believe it is, something like that of their opponents. So their opponents don't have that winning record that you like to see. But, can they hang tight with College Station? It's going to be an interesting game to see. I don't necessarily think they will, but if they can, then you're going to have some questions about, okay, what can this Leander team do? But then, of course, like I said, there is that one game that I think everyone's going to be paying very close attention to. So let's go ahead and talk about it right now, Jackson. Does Lake Travis stand a chance against Westlake this week? It's always that, it's coming down to Westlake and Lake Travis in that district. The last few years, it's been Westlake. I think they're on a 43-game winning streak, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around that area. Last team to beat them was Lake Travis back in 2019, I believe it was, that last game of that season. Before, obviously, Westlake ended up winning that year, winning it all. But, they had that one loss to Lake Travis, and they haven't lost since. Bo Edmondson has not played at all this year, as far as I can tell. I don't know if he's playing, this Friday. I think that is going to be one of the keys to victory. I talk about that in my 5 to watch. Is that if Bo Edmondson is not playing, I don't feel, what little chance they have might go out the window. Jackson, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think without Bo Edmondson, I just don't know if I would pick Lake Travis in this game. Obviously, rivalry game. There's going to be great turnout on both sides. This is the big matchup in this district. But I think without Bo Edmondson there, I think Westlake's going to handle this pretty well. They've blown out their opponents so far. They haven't looked like they've taken a step back since Cade Klubnik left. I feel like they're still grooving how they were last year. When you got offensive weapons like Jaden Greathouse, Notre Dame commit, Keaton Quebeca, Kansas commit, and then your running back Jack Kaiser. I just think that there's a lot there that I don't think Lake Travis can hold up with. Also, you got TJ Shanahan, Texas A&M commit on the offensive line. for Westlake. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you've got Colton Bassick, OU commit, DN, and a very experienced Westlake defense. I just think Westlake has too much, and I think that they're going to win this game. They won it pretty handedly last year, blowing them out pretty bad in their last game of the season. So I expect Lake Travis to maybe come out, throw some punches in the first quarter, but I feel like Westlake's going to really pull away throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah, something we have seen from Westlake games so far this season is, they play consistent ball, but that gives a team a chance to, maybe score a few points early in the game before kind of Westlake defense finds its rhythm. I think as a season as a whole, I think Westlake's offense is still trying to find its rhythm. I mean, it's not on par with last year's, but how could it be without, when you're missing one of the greatest quarterbacks in Texas high school football, history, and Cade Klubnik. But you got Jaden Greathouse there. You have the running back. I forget his name at the top of my head. It escapes me. Kaiser or something. Kaiser, yeah, he's been great for them, and I think he's only a junior as well. And so while the quarterback, I think situation still finds its groove and everything, they're relying on their defense, and their defense has come to play. I mean, as long as you have that defense, it's hard to pick against them. Like I said, I think this team won't be challenged. Personally, this is my opinion, of course. They're not going to be challenged until the state semis, where they're most likely going to be playing North Shore. Who do you think is going to challenge them? It's not Dripping Springs. I don't know if Dripping Springs is good, but I don't know if they're that good. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Jackson, there?
I think people are going to sleep on that Dripping Springs game. I actually do think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think Dripping Springs is going to wake up a lot of people. Austin Novosad has looked really good so far in pre-district schedule. Actually, they started district last week, so he's looked really good so far, and I expect him to continue. I think that's the matchup in the district this year. I think it is going to be Dripping Springs versus Westlake. You might see an undefeated Dripping Springs team and an undefeated Westlake team. So it's going to be very interesting. I think that's the team that could possibly give Westlake some problems.
I don't know. I did see that game, Vandergrift versus Dripping Springs, and you look at what Westlake did last year to Vandergrift. I'm not too sure. You could be right. Hey, you could very well be right, and we'll find out in a couple of weeks, because they are playing each other in a couple of weeks, and we'll really get to see Dripping Springs medal, because they play Westlake and Lake Travis in back-to-back weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull up my schedule here while I'm talking, but I'm almost positive they play. Let's see here. So they play Westlake on the 14th and Lake Travis on the 21st. So we'll find out a little bit about this team this week for sure, because like I said, they're playing Bowie. I'm sorry, Bowie, not Bowie. It's Bowie. I said it wrong last time and someone corrected me. So we'll find out about them this week, and that game could go a long way. But that close game against Vandergrift, now it's week one, so it was week one when that game happened. So of course, hey, that could also be a reason why. But because of that game, I'm a little hesitant. I'm hesitant to pick against Westlake, because they've earned that right by winning, 40 plus games in a row, right? And so, like I said, I personally feel like it's going to be the state semis where they finally face a challenge. And same for North Shore, right? I don't think North Shore is really going to be challenged until the state semis as well. So that one should be a good one. What other games are out there, Jackson, that we should be aware of?
Yeah, some interesting matchups for me that I've got this week, other than the ones I mentioned. You've got an undefeated Kingwood team taking on Tascasita. Now, Kingwood in the past couple years has not really had a great team, but they started off, they're 3-0 right now. They're taking on a Tascasita team who took a tough loss to Katy. Now, while I don't think Kingwood wins this game, I think it is an interesting matchup. I think it's one to maybe keep an eye on. You never know. I said this last week about New Caney and Woodlands. I thought that the Woodlands would pull it out, but I knew that New Caney has something special there. So I feel like this is the same kind of matchup here, where you look at Kingwood, you might not think that they have the power to outplay a Tascasita, but you never know. It's Texas high school football, so I think that's an interesting matchup to me. Also, Fort Bend Christian Academy playing now, I probably will say this right, Cibolo Steel this week. I think this is an interesting matchup. You've got Episcopal, who made it to the state semis and TAPS last year, taking on Steele, who's been pretty much a San Antonio, I would argue, powerhouse probably the past couple of years. I think this is going to be an interesting matchup, the private school versus the public school. So that's one I'm keeping an eye on as well.
Well, first off, you were close. It's Cibolo Steel. They just usually go by Steel, but hey, close enough. That was a game I was actually going to bring up. It's a good test for both squads. Steel came out with that victory against Midland Legacy last week, which I think was really good. They've had a pretty good non-district schedule, in my opinion. I think this is going to tell a lot about both teams as Steel transitions into district play next week, I believe it is. So, or maybe the week after. I'm not too sure how that works out. Another team I want to mention that's off to an impressive 4-0 start is Somerset. This is a 4A school down here in the San Antonio area, and coming off an impressive win against Bevo Jones, who I mentioned earlier, taking on Cuero. And they're playing. They got a bye week this week, but this is a team I just wanted to mention as a team to look out for as we move on. And of course, I think the team to beat in 4A this year, in my opinion, is Bernie. They take on Saleno this week and should win that one pretty easily. Any other games before we get out of here today, Jackson?
I'm going to mention one, and it's in my area. You've got Conroe taking on the Woodlands. I think this is a more interesting matchup than it maybe looks. You've got a 2-2 Woodlands team who just lost to Caney last week and lost to North Shore to open up the season. The offense has kind of been struggling a little bit, and versus a Conroe team that has got 3 guys in the top 5 of the receiving yards in the district. It's a Conroe team that has not beaten the Woodlands in a very long time. And this game could be a trap game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, very interesting game to watch, as we also saw Conroe hold a Pato offense to 14 points earlier in the year. While Pato's offense hasn't been really that great this year, that's still pretty impressive for a Conroe team that only lost 14-3 against Pato, who won state last year. So I'm intrigued about this game. I'm not going to pick one or the other to win. I think that if the Woodlands plays their game, I think they win this game. But this is one that could be very interesting if you're watching games on Friday.
A couple of others before we get out of here. You had Midland Legacy playing Steel last week. They played Judson this week. I think Midland Legacy should come out with the win, but now they're traveling, right? So last week they had the home game. Now they have the away game in San Antonio. Will that affect them? Don't know. I think Midland Legacy should come out with the win in that one. You also have Permian taking on Cooper. Permian looking pretty good this year, sitting at 4-0. Of course, as we know, one of the top offensive tackles in the state and nation is over there playing for Permian. And then a good one in kind of the Waco-ish area. You have Georgetown and A&M Consolidated. That's kind of that weird district where you have kind of teams a little further apart than you usually see in districts. Georgetown sitting at 2-1, as is A&M Consolidated. Georgetown coming off their bye after losing to Liberty Hill, which, as we know, is a good 5A school right there. So should be a good one. And then Weiss taking on Harker Heights. Weiss started 0-2. And then they've kind of been pretty good the last 2 weeks, beating Judson and New Braunfels. And now we see they're taking on Harker Heights, who's sitting at 3-1. One of the schools to beat Smithson Valley, as we know, and they lost by 1 last week to Permian, who we just mentioned. So Harker Heights coming in with probably a little bit of a revenge on their mind heading into the district. So lots of good matchups as district starts. So we're going to see some great matchups. I'm looking forward to in a couple of weeks, Denton Geyer and Allen coming up in district in a few weeks. That will be one to watch. That being said, let's go ahead and get on out of here, Jackson. So let's get some shout-outs. Who are you shouting out today?
I'm going to shout out my little brother. He's got a game today that I will be going to at 6:30, so good luck to Peyton. And just want to shout out the entire VYPE crew. We've had a busy couple of weeks covering some football, volleyball. Now we're about to start up Winter Media Days, so just shout out to the VYPE team. We're going to get through the month of October, and we're going to keep covering some high school sports as well.
Who am I shouting out today? I'm going to shout out all of our VYPE ambassadors who've been covering the games, getting some good photos, getting some good, sideline reporting. Haley comes to mind there. So just great job all around by our VYPE ambassadors, which, by the way, if you want to be a VYPE ambassador, go to VYPE.com and apply. It's going to be our show for today. We'll be back tomorrow with our VYPE Crew Spotlight episode. Got a good one for you, myself, Jackson, and Ashton, talking about that Jalen Hill commitment, the DJ Lagway top 10, and more. So definitely tune in to watch that one. And then we'll be back on Monday with another Locker Talk Live, breaking down all the action from this past week in Texas high school football. So until then, I'm Wac, and that's Jackson. We'll see you at the games.